But just to set the ground rules for the podcast, guys, those of you in chat are free to ask your questions and pose questions as long as they are legitimate questions. Please do not go out of your way to start with trolling questions or, God forbid, the whole Nerf Slayer comment, because I will ignore it. It's a ridiculous conversation, and bottom line, it doesn't need a nerf. As easy as it is to interrupt it, you just don't need it. Same way with get to the chopper. So we'll see. It's just every time that gets brought up, it's just it's right. Most people that discuss it or get into it, they stray away from a legitimate conversation into the domain of they just want to nerf the class or destroy the class because they don't like it. Same way I hate witch hunters and Wheeze. Yeah, and they're easy enough to interrupt too. Yeah, I got you. Alright, well, let me unmute the Discord, and you guys will officially be joining the convo. Discord, monitor off. And you guys are now officially live, so chat should be able to hear you. Guys, joining me today, as always, is Mr. Karis Kelly, resident host of the Realm Watch, which is officially sanctioned by the RoR Powers Epi. So
you are correct.
So if you don't follow it, you need to get yourself over there because they do regular giveaways during those Realm Watches. Sometimes it's gold, sometimes it's mounts. You never know. You might be the lucky guys that gets one of the mounts that gets handed out, providing that that's what they choose to do. And today, last minute joining is Mr. Fluffy Viking, or the Viking, as I like to call him. And we will be discussing a few random things. I'm also going to be asking some serious questions about the live event and what people think of it. You know, with the fact of the new dies being added in, the changes being made to the dungeon running requirement to where you only have to run it twice to get the gear now. So those will be topics of discussion as well as a few other things. But since this is your first time, you're in the hot seat. Do you have a topic you would like to bring to the table?
Honestly, I'm just kind of wanting to listen and to see where this goes. Off the top of my head, I have nothing.
I got you. Well,
genuinely, I have nothing.
Tell you what, give you a few minutes to collect your thoughts, and I'll open the floor to Mr. Karis, because I know he's got a few hot topics. So, Karis, fire away.
I used to love Hot Topics, man.
Yeah, it just makes people all kind of squeamish, and then they don't really want to say anything.
No, I'm talking about the store. I used to take Tracy there, and
oh God.
I mean, I bought her this leather outfit. Well, never mind. Okay, I'm sorry. Never mind.
No, that's Spencer's. We don't talk about that.
Okay, going too far off subject. Way too far.
No, I guess we can start with the live event first. That's probably, a good launching point. But I think I well, all full disclosure. Full disclosure. I do have a sort of a biased opinion when it comes to the current live event because my son, my very own flesh and blood, the one and only Techno, is part of the team now, and he did a lot of the work to prepare for this. You know, like working on the armor design, a lot of the stats, as he did all that stuff. He did a lot of the Twitch drops. He actually came up with the entire Twitch drops, all the stuff that people get for watching. That was his, you know. So he put a lot of stuff in it. So for full disclosure, I just got to say that, you know, I'm proud of the stuff that he's doing, especially since he's still in high school, right? And so I wanted to just make that plain to anybody listening that, yeah, I'm kind of biased, but trying to set that aside, the one issue I guess I would have with it is you've already articulated the fact that you only have to run it twice. I thought 3 times was fair. I thought, you know, because if you could go to Bastion Stair or Gunbad, or, you know, and only run it 3 times to get everything, you know, that was pretty good, right? That's pretty good, I thought. And of course, it's possible to run Gunbad once if you're really lucky and get everything, but that's really a rare occasion when that happens. So I think maybe they went a little too far with reducing the requirements to only twice. But other than that, I'm having a blast.
Well, I think...
you know, I was on...
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was on last night for about... After I did Rum Watch, I logged back in and streamed for like another 4.5 hours doing all the scenario stuff. And I was having a blast, man. There were a lot of people, a lot of good fights. So...
I think the biggest reason why, and this is just bouncing off of what you're saying with the reduction, I think the biggest reason for it is, and there's a lot of the patch notes leaned heavily towards trying to make it new player friendly experience, easier for the newer people coming in, because we want the whole idea of us streaming and everything else, everything that's being done is to help pull more people into the game. So, and considering the level bracket that dungeon sits in, reducing the runs, I don't see it as necessarily a bad thing. I think it was a wise idea, and certainly changing some of the stats, fine-tuning it, adjusting it, make it, you know, more advantageous and more enticing for people to go after was definitely a smart play. Because if anything I've seen in any MMO that I've played over the years, if you get the PvE crowd to want to jump into a game, about 50 to 70% of that time, once they get in the game, they'll try PvP. They'll get into PvP. Now you got some people that will never try PvP. That all they enjoy is PvE. But, you know, certainly showing some attention overall to PvE and having more to do in the game so you don't have these long doldrums. Because let's face it, there's times when PvP in the game is dead because there's just not enough people to sustain it. Whereas there might be more than enough to do dungeons. So, in that regard, I think it's a wise idea.
Well, another aspect or qualifier to put on it, I guess, is I've been active on the server, you know, with one notable exception of time. I've been active on the server since 2016. And so I remember in those days, through 2017, 2018 and all that, how hard it was initially to accomplish tasks, or I should say how much harder or more difficult it was during those days to do particular things. And Gunbad, when it first came out, was a fracking nightmare. I talked to Rubius about that yesterday on Realm Watch. The fact that, you know, at one time, in order to get the gear for Gunbad, you had to take someone with you that was already in Solve Warlord to help offset the bosses that you were up against. Well, those were scaled down at some point, right? And over time, everything has been scaled down. Now, I'm not opposed to that in and of itself, but judging from from the knowledge of what it used to be, I think every now and then they may go just a little bit too far in the other direction, right?
Yeah.
So
it's always a struggle to find that balance. How far do you lean towards PvP? How far do you lean towards PvE? Trying to keep a good middle ground is a very slippery slope, and it's especially with some of the dev teams I've worked with on other projects. That's been an endless debate because anytime you try to focus on something for one side and then you turn around and try to do it for the other, you try to figure out where do you stop. So I get it. What about you? Sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead. I thought Fluffy said something. I was going to give him a...
No, I didn't say anything.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Sticker after you guys said go ahead at the same time.
Guys,
well,
excuse me for
I was going to say
continue.
that... Lost Vale. I've been making that mistake all weekend. Hunter's Vale, I've always found to be, just a fun little dungeon, right? And the one point that can be either incredibly frustrating or an absolute riot, depending on, how your group plays it, is the infinite, the dogs of infinity, as I call it, where you got to get to this boss, and the whole time, the dog ads never stop coming. That's and little things like that just make it fun to do. So overall, I guess to make a comparison, the previous live event that we had, Night of Murder, that thing was an absolute blast. I had more fun running the Night of Murder, running into running around in the inevitable city. This live event, I'm having fun. I would say maybe at a 75% rate of what was going on with Night of Murder, but that's still, that's still good. It's just not as good. Or to put it another way, all live events are equal, but some are more equal than others. For anyone who gets that reference. Hello? Is this thing on?
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay.
Or at least I can hear you. I don't know what happened to Toth, though.
Let me check his... Okay, I can hear my voice on his stream, so we're still going out. Speaking of my voice, I should have apologized up front, but I'm still fighting with this cold, so that's why I sound like...
I can hear you
we gotta...
I didn't speak for a second because I had to go upstairs and a package showed up, and I was trying to avoid something falling down the stairs that would have broke. So I could hear everything you were saying. I just couldn't answer.
Okay. Well, speaking of packages, I ordered Girl Scout cookies like 2 weeks ago, and they haven't shown up yet. I swear, man. Girl Scouts are slacking.
I got you. No, I ordered some parts that I needed, including a new charger, but I'm back, guys. I do appreciate y'all hanging in there, and I agree with what you were saying with the Night of Murder and stuff. I didn't get in too much on that event myself, but I did watch a number of people that did. So I think the last couple of events that they've tinkered with, made changes to. As far as from what I've seen, have been a step in the right direction. It's gonna be baby steps. You're gonna have to take baby steps before you can get to walking and full head of steam of running with it. I hope people would understand that. I've seen a lot of comments. People are saying, "Oh, well, the changes to like the Wild Hunt event and doing anything PvE related has killed the game for me," and all this other mess. And I'm just like, you guys have got to be open to new ideas. You really do. You've got to give things a chance.
Yeah, that's I guess the best term to use in context of someone who would make a comment like that. Having to do PvE ruins the game for me. Is don't be so myopic. I mean, I think that's just a kind of a petty argument to make. Is that if a live event or something requires that you do a bit of PvE to complete it, and you're gonna complain about that as if the game is trying to, the developers or whoever is trying to control your life and force you into doing things you don't want to do. Oh, man, grow up. It's a game, and just immerse yourself in the game, and just get over it. I don't. That mentality is just anathema to me. I don't understand it, and I never have.
I get you, and I agree. I've played so many PvP games, battle royale games in my lifetime. It's not funny. So I'm like, yeah, it's time for it's good to have change. And for the love of God, you're playing an MMO that's heavily steeped in lore, which is a big pulling point for a lot of people. Like I'm curious to the people. Now, this is a question for everyone that's listening and whatnot. How many of you play this game simply because of the Warhammer lore? That's what pulled you in, not just the PvP, but I mean the lore surrounding Warhammer. I'm actually kind of curious to hear the answer.
That was part of what got me in. But it wasn't. Well, I guess I should rephrase that. It was a big part of what got me in. Was the experience I had prior, with like the tabletop Warhammer Fantasy Battle. If anybody played Warhammer Fantasy Battle, I had a skeleton army that was just wicked, man. And we had a group of guys in the army that we used to play that stuff. That and 40K when we had time. And so when I saw Warhammer Fantasy, we had a guy who ran Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, the RPG version, right? So this was kind of a natural offshoot when it came up. I felt right at home, right?
Oh, yeah. And guys, don't hesitate to, ask a question. You're not going to be punished, or unless you say something really out of line. That is the only way that you have any worry of any kind of issue happening. No one's going to ban you for sharing your opinion. We may disagree, and that, after all, that's your right as an individual, is to disagree and have differing points of view. But I encourage you to share your thoughts, guys. Again, part of this podcast today is heavily into feedback on the Wild Hunt event, because as the patch notes say, the devs want feedback. There's so many of you out there from time to time that comment, well, the devs never listen. The dev never listen. They don't ask us anything. Well, the last couple of events, they've specifically asked for feedback. Now, what I have to stress is that people need to realize just because you give feedback does not mean that they're going to react to what you say alone, nor does that, you sitting there fussing about a given subject make you right on that subject. You're expressing your viewpoint on that subject matter, and you need to understand that they may choose to not listen or disagree with it, or they may take something from that and say, okay, yeah, he's making a valid point. Just wanted to point that out. But I think all in all, from what I've seen of the Wild Hunt event so far, I mean, I like the cosmetics, so I gotta give credit to Techno on that. I'm probably gonna try and go for the cape myself. That's about the only thing I really see that I have any real interest in.
Well, so I saw someone yesterday a couple times on who has one of the huge stag mounts, and those things are, for you talk about a gaming item, right? A gaming accessory. Those things look really cool.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
I was impressed.
Very funny, Cos. Very funny. Fluffy, you got anything to add into the subject?
Now that we got the ball rolling here a little bit, I will say that to answer your question earlier about what brought you into or what brought me rather into the MMO itself. It was a buddy of mine, surprisingly, and I knew of Warhammer 40K, but I had no idea that there was just Warhammer. And he was trying to explain that to me, and I was like, yeah, like guns and orcs and, space armor and snot like that. And my buddy Ched is just like, no. This is medieval. And I'm like, oh, I'm listening. So, originally, we got to playing this, and I was like, okay, I can get into this. And the more I dug deeper into this, the more I thought to myself, okay, there's a lot of characters that are really, sorry, I'm trying to fix my vocabulary here because it's family friendly. They're very tough. Let's put it that way. There's a lot of characters out there that are very tough. And by tough, I mean strong. They do not take any dirt from anybody else type characters. And that's, again, that was another draw that brought me into it. The lore itself of the Slayer in general, the lore of the orcs, of the elves, it really it blew my mind. And to find out that there's actually books out there, not like D&D like books or otherwise, but literally like novels. Oh man.
I've got a 100-page rough draft book that I wrote my first year. I worked on it for almost 2 years. Sent it to a publisher. They sent the draft back to me. I gotta get them to send me another copy of the changes. But it basically is the story of Clan Ironfoot, but I put in a lot of interesting topics along the way with it. So.
And I feel bad because I'm aiming, or what rather was aiming towards a specific character. I can't remember their names off the top of my head though, which really stinks. But I'm very impressed though that you are writing something about Clan Ironfoot, like I would read that in the heartbeat. Let's see here. Who am I trying to think of?
Are you friends?
That's who I was trying to think of. Okay. Gotrek Gurnison is who I was thinking of originally.
Gotrek Gurnison. Gotrek.
Gotrek, excuse me. I've heard it pronounced so many ways that I've just like, my brain's just like, okay, which one?
Well, considering who does the voice acting for that character, Brian Blessed, I believe it is.
Okay.
That guy's a beast.
Yeah,
Brian Bless, that guy's amazing.
He's an excellent actor, Shakespearean style actor, among other things. One of the key pivotal movies he was in was Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. He played Robin of Locksley's father. He's also done voice acting in a number of other games. He's been very pivotal in a number of things, and he's like, it's the next form of acting. In his own words, he did an interview where he said, no, it's the next generation of acting, and he finds it extremely entertaining. And he actually enjoys Gotrek's story as a Slayer, and the fact that he's absolutely fearless and has no fear of anything. No, I had the live feed turned off, so it just wasn't responding. How you doing, Anonymous? But no, he actually enjoys Gotrek. He because he sees a lot of himself in it, because he, even at his age, he enjoys being very active. I mean, for God's sakes, the man climbed Mount Everest in his senior years. I mean, he's if you watch some interviews of him, he is very outspoken. He did Boss Noss in Star Wars, for those of you that don't know. If you ever wondered who did the acting for Boss Noss in Star Wars Episode 1, it was him. He did a behind-the-scenes interview. Turns out that he actually leaked the script and didn't mean to, because he left it sitting in a hotel.
Well, if this wasn't a family-friendly podcast, I could tell you a story about Brian Blessed in connection with Flash Gordon, when he was in the movie Flash Gordon.
Oh God, no! Yeah, but, I know where that one goes.
Okay.
No. All
right. But that was a great movie. All right, I'm just.
But yeah, does anyone in chat have questions or thoughts that they would like to pose about the Wild Hunt event? What you think of the bug fixes that were done? And the fact that the devs are starting to show a little more emphasis in the the PvE side of things, with the hope that it will pull more people into the game, which would translate to some of those same people trying PvP over time. The trick is just getting them in the game. But I genuinely would like to hear some of y'all's thoughts and chat on it. What you think of it. So please feel free to pose questions and thoughts. Go ahead, Karis.
I was going to say, if I can comment on that just for a moment, the idea of, and this could tread some dangerous ground, I suppose. I'll try to avoid it, but anyway, on the idea of bringing players back to the game, or new players into the game, I know that the devs have done a lot of work on exactly that, the new player experience, right? And was it Max, I think, somebody came on your podcast about a month or so ago.
Max, Dalen, and Rubius.
Yeah. And, talked about all that, the new player experience. and all the work they had done. And anything that supports, anything that helps to optimize new people trying out the server and then deciding to stick with it, I of course support. And I've made that argument time and again when I run my own stream or whatever. And it all comes down to one thing. I think as far as the gaming world goes, I think this is a project that is worthy, right? It is worthy of the efforts that go into it. Okay.
Fair
Not
point.
everybody who plays on this server would agree. I'll phrase it that way. You and I have had that conversation.
Oh, no.
And I think what happens is that we get players who come into the game. They have a good experience in tier 1 or whatever, maybe all the way up to level 40, and then they hit
the wall.
Their wall. There is they hit that period where they're up against the highest odds against surviving and just enjoying the game that are to be found on the server. So in that context, I support the fact that, okay, we're going to give another PvE option for those guys. The issue I have with it, and where I would question it, is how to get that message out, right? How to best get that message out that we have this other stuff for you. And maybe they're doing that and I'm just missing it or something, but that would be my question, how to best get that message out to people.
I got you. And it's a valid point. I mean, that's where the streamers come in. And this is something I've talked about to a few streamers candidly, and I'll say it here. It's one thing to have a strong viewpoint about the game, and you've got valid concerns, but you've got streamers that take the mindset, okay, I'm gonna bash the game, I'm gonna bash the server, I'm gonna bash the devs,
or I'm gonna target a particular player and kill them until they quit the game.
Yeah,
that's another comment
that's it doesn't help. I mean, I know there's people listening that are going to sit here and swear up and down, well, you don't know what you're talking about. I've been gaming since the old Commodore 64 days, all the way up till now. And I've seen the gaming community morph into various different things. And in the recent times, the biggest thing that I've seen is the unbelievable amount of selfish arrogance and bravado to where they only want changes solely that benefit them alone. Instead of taking a step back and thinking what would improve the game, it's more of, okay, I'm going to throw a tantrum till I get what I want. And then if that doesn't happen, they want to go on a tirade and start destroying things. It's like a small child with a toy. They figure, okay, well, if I can't have fun with it, I'm going to destroy it. That does no good at all on any level. I don't know in what world people think that would work. It doesn't. So
that's a perfect segue to that other issue I talked about. Wanting to comment on. If you want to.
I'm gonna leave that. We'll redress that in a little bit, but
all right.
I think overall with the stat changes and the boost they did to the gear, I think it's a positive thing. I like that they're starting to introduce them newer dyes and stuff. Sure, I want them to do more. I mean, I'd be lying if I said I didn't. Now, do I want them to do things specifically to suit my interests? No. And as far as to
We're
what
here.
as
Oh,
far as to what you said about how to get word out there, again, it boils down to word of mouth from the player base, from streamers, all across the spectrum.
but
That's. Go ahead.
speaking of the streaming aspect, though, here's another potential negative, I guess. Um, I do the PVE content, and at times, but I tend not to stream it, right? Because when I first started streaming in the first year, I did. If we were going to run like Bash and Stare or something like that, I would stream it. But it didn't take long to catch on to the fact that when you're streaming a PVE content like that, your viewership tends to be reduced. People who might typically watch you come into the channel and they say, oh, well, okay, they're in Gunbat or they're running crypts and tunnels or whatever. So they go watch someone else. So I stopped streaming the PVE content for that reason. And I don't, again, that's one of those issues that I don't much see a way to address unless you could really, you could really jazz up the PVE content with.
It's not that's more.
It's not yeah.
It's more of a mindset to answer, because I know what you're trying to say. It's more of the mindset of people only want to see they want this deathmatch mindset, to where all they want to do is see fighting, and that's it. I've done tons of PvE content, and there's actually a number of this community that have stuck with me because I do the PvE content. I'm not the only one that does. Evil Jordy did a lot of it too. He just did it during the North American times. I'll do dungeon runs during streams. I don't care. It doesn't faze me. I find it kind of childish, and I will not say names, but I've had a couple of streamers that have flat told me they won't raid me because they're like, well, you're doing PvE. No one wants PvE. That is a barefaced lie. That's what you don't want. That's not the entire community's mindset. So I say this to everybody. This game has a little bit of everything for every person out there, be it PvE, PvP, whatever. Role-playing is also a thing. There's entire guilds that role-play everything they do. Bitterstone, excellent example. There's some role-players in Gimli. I've seen role-players and been in Thylax and a number of other guilds. There is loads of things to do in this game, guys, other than just one aspect. So, as far as getting the word out there to people, that relies on the community to do it, to pick up the torch, rally to the cause and spread the word. So, and as I've said this on my own streams, at times this community is its own worst enemy. It's self-destructive. And people don't want to hear it, or they want to say, oh, you're a conspiracy nut, or you're just a troublemaker. I'm like, so you're that determined you want to keep things, in meltdown mode? Because that's what you've got. You're killing the game that you say you enjoy because you would rather gut it to get your own self-interested stuff in there, and nothing else matters.
Here's a good example of, or perhaps, a good way to illustrate what you're talking about. Yesterday on Realm Watch, the city started, right? I'm sorry. Give me a second. I got a cough. Hang on. I'll be right back.
No worries. But yeah, I would say this, guys, to all of you listening. Go out there, spread the word on the game. Pros and cons.
Okay.
Anytime you talk about something, don't just focus on one aspect. Answer people honestly, but try to be unbiased.
It's a wonder I can talk at all.
Go ahead.
It's a wonder I can talk at all, man. The way I've been coughing the last few days. But anyway, yesterday during Realm Watch, the city started, right? City Siege, and I was bouncing around between instances. And I came on FMJ, and when I first got into that particular city instance, I didn't know it was FMJ because they were just all fighting at mid, and then the stage ended. They went to stage 2, and I noticed that nobody on either side was bothering to mess with the lords at all, right? Where usually stage 2, you chase down one of the lords and kill them. These guys didn't care. They didn't care about that at all. And so that's when I started looking to see who this was, right? And it turned out it was FMJ against some of their order guilds, which at the moment, I can't remember. Hang on. They didn't care. Okay, they did not care one bit. They didn't care one bit about the mechanics of the city scenario. They were just fighting each other to the death. And it was a great thing to see, okay? So that's one aspect of the game, right? That's one aspect of the player base, is that all they want to do is get out there and have those kind of fights with each other, right? Okay, well, that's perfectly fine. You know, there's a place for that on the server. There always has been a place for that on the server. But then there are other people that will never really be part of a group that consistently operates that way, and therefore need other stuff to do. And it just appears to me that that's what the devs are trying to give other options to people who aren't quite so, I guess, hardcore might be the... Man, I'm getting some real lag here.
It's a possibility.
Go ahead.
I mean, it's always a possibility. How you doing, man? Just discussing some things about the game and about the recent live event.
All of a sudden, I'm getting some huge lag in the game.
Yeah, so did I. I just got a nasty spike. My ping went up to over 10,000. Just wonder it didn't disconnect.
Yeah, for a minute I thought it was going to.
Yeah, it says poor network connection. I think it's because of my wireless, where the wireless router is to where I'm at. And there's not anything I can do about it just yet till I get a signal booster. I just don't have the money for it just yet.
Oh, I had my stream up and now it's off already. It's trying to reconnect. I must have lost service or somewhere for a moment. So I don't know if any of those comments I made went out or not.
It should have. I heard you, so, and then you went quiet. Fluffy, you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, I'm getting excellent signal strength now, so I don't know what's going on. You got Spectrum Internet by chance there, Karis?
No, I have, there's a new group in town called the Flintstones Internet. And,
jeez. All right.
they have,
Okay.
they all right, they use clamshells. It's really something.
Har.
All right. What's next?
Well,
So,
that's what I was going to ask Fluffy. Fluffy, have you come up with anything you want to add to the fray, or any topics you want to discuss? Or are you still trying to figure out what you want to say for sure?
no, I know what I want to say next. I was gonna connect that to the lore of what I was talking about earlier. somehow, but we got off track, or I got off track rather. I just started rambling. Um, the thing that I will say as a newer player on this game, I have, well, besides looking at the website, I have no clue like as to where to start this event, what characters I could do it on, nor do I know the location as to exactly, what this may pertain to. So normally, when I'm playing other MMOs, let's leave an example here. Lord of the Rings Online, just as an example.
Yeah.
When you log in, there's a quest that's saying, "Hey, this holiday is happening," and then they give you a little item in your inventory that teleports you to the location of where the holiday is happening. And it's just a bunch of fun little thing. There's like, I think the Spring Festival is going on right now, so there's
Yeah.
like edge maze and like rabbits and all that other kinds of stuff. And it's very straightforward as to what you need to do with what the event is pertaining to. So when I'm looking at the RoR website here, it's just like, hey, Dungeon Hunter's Veil. Like, okay, what level is it? Like, that's the first question that I have. Like, and if I ask somebody in advice, usually
Sometimes
usually
you
it's
get a good
quiet.
answer, and sometimes you.
Sometimes I get a good answer, yes, and then sometimes, at the worst, I get told to shut up. But that's only happened like maybe one or two times. But that would be, but having a clear idea as to where this live event is. Like, yes, I know you can click your J key on your keyboard and then click on, live events and then click on the wild hunt. Sure, great. But having said that, it's.
Well,
I'm not trying to say dumb it down. I'm trying to say make it clear.
The patch notes state where you go for the quest. It literally spells it out verbatim. It's in Altdorf. Actually, it's right near the flight point. If you're looking at my stream, I'll actually show it to you. But in the patch notes, it does clearly say where to go. And the dungeon itself, now if you're on order, this is the person you talk to. There's also the vendor or the quest giver that's outside the dungeon itself. But here are the quests that are for that dungeon, for the event. And then for the dungeon itself, you go to Alorian, which is southern part of Shadowlands, and there's right here on the southeastern coast, you got a little stag head, and that is the Hunter's Veil dungeon. That's the entrance there.
Okay. So
that is
I
all.
guess that's just then.
Yeah, it's on the map. If you haven't ever been over there, that would explain why you don't know. Most people don't ever go through PV. I'm like one of those people that does because of the quest guide stuff that I've done. So exploring around and knowing where things are at, I've done that for a while.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's not the fact that I'm trying to say, the game needs to be a little bit more hand-holding. No. Because the game's fine, well, in my opinion at least. There are some things that the game does very well, and then there's some things that the game could do better. But, the events is probably... Yes, I can't talk today, I'm sorry.
Sorry.
The events as to what happened, or what's going on in the world, I would like to see at least, hey, some. I guess what you said just kind of really well, it didn't shut me down, but now I'm just kind of bumbling and muttering here because I'm just kind of scratching my head, and I'm like, okay, well, I didn't know that, but now that I know, it's kind of silly that I didn't know.
It's fine. Again, a lot of people don't know. That was why day one of the Twitch drops, I spent probably 30 minutes into my stream going over the patch notes and showing people stuff so that they know where they were at. Which, by the way, guys, if you do the exclamation drops in the chat there, that link will take you directly to the patch notes as well as the Twitch drop, so you can check your account and make sure it's linked. Which I cannot stress enough. Just because you have your account linked, you still have to go claim the drop, tell it what character you want it to go to, so that it kicks over the timer, so that it will begin again for the next one. So don't just assume that it's automatically going to go, and also do not sit there and wait till the following day to try to send stuff out, because they don't roll over. If you don't claim the drops today and you wait till tomorrow, you won't get them. You'll lose them. So do not make that mistake. And if you're wondering why I've been sitting here for so long, guys, I'm waiting on the timer. It's like 6 minutes to the start of Land of the Dead. I figured that would be a good thing to show you guys. I know one of the things that's in the works from the devs, and Max has said this, but there's no kind of ETA as to when they'll get it done. Tomb of the Vulture Lord is being worked on. From what Max said, I think it's just bits and pieces. They really don't know, because they are volunteers, so it's more of a question of when they have time to actually sit down and work on stuff in between real life. So it's the same with many of the other things that they want to do, ideas. Max alluded to the fact of possibly they're adding in, or the idea of them adding in the 2 elf cities, and then how to work it all in together to overall of the siege. He also discussed some ideas about where if, say Destro attacks Altdorf, they take Altdorf, it would then open up dungeons for them to do. That they basically would retain control of the city for a time period, which would open them to doing dungeons. Same for Order, if they vice versa. He also, Kazara, Kerek, and 8 Peaks are in the lineup to be added as siege cities. Now, as to when that happens, don't know just yet. But Max did discuss it. That's all on episode 6. And the other time that it's been discussed was a Realm Watch.
Oh, sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you.
Go ahead, Fluffy.
Another thing that I can think of off the top of my head is that, well, this is more of a question, I should say. And
Fire away.
Leading up to the question is what I'm going to say after. Are the events mainly just for those that are like CR capped, or
No, the events are for there's events, there's parts of the event that even lower levels can do. If you read the patch notes, it states all that.
Okay. See, this is where I don't pay attention. So.
Yeah, it's a fair thing. I'm not criticizing you for it. There's plenty that do it, but yes, there's different rewards for various points of what you want to work on. So there's opportunities and stuff. Well, I don't know that it would be that particular dungeon swap like that, Anonymous. It was what Max had discussed. He was throwing out ideas, and it right now I think it's a little more than just an idea on a drawing board. It probably be a long time before they get around to it, given the rate that they do things. So, but it was still something that was discussed. So it's something that I've discussed in some previous podcasts, and delved into a little deeper to kind of hear people's thoughts. But mainly, I'm trying to stay focused on the Wild Hunt event. And here's my other question for you guys. I mean, with all the new additions of dies, and then the rare drop dies that are only here for just this event, as opposed to the ones that they're leaving in permanently. I mean, what do you guys think of the new dies they're bringing in? Because a lot of that is heavily at the request of the player base of wanting to be able to customize your characters more so that your character stands out above everyone else. So what do you guys think on that? Karis, Fluffy, anybody?
I've never been that much into the whole fashion hammer aspect of the game, and I'm not attempting to criticize anyone who is. I don't mean that in any way, shape, or form. I'm just simply saying that it's never been that much of a big deal. To me, there are a few dies that were in the game that I really liked, but they're the basic ones. I guess what you would call basic ones now, like Skull White, Chaos Black, and Blood Red. Those were the big three. If I had those, I was happy, and that's about as far as I ever really got into the whole, fashion hammer thing. So, I hate to say it, but when it comes to all the new dies, I really don't have. It's just I'm kind of indifferent, Okay, great, but I don't. Beyond that, I don't have much to say.
I got you. Anyone else in chat care to weigh in it on what you think of the event? Pros, cons. What you think of the changes that the devs did? I would really love to hear your thoughts on this, guys. I know a lot of you are just here for the drops. I get it. But I would like to think that you would actually, weigh in on the conversation too. And Land of the Dead is officially is underway.
So the question, I found it.
Fire away, Fluffy. Floor is open.
I was about to say, I'm like, where is Land of the Dead? And then I looked at the map. I was like, oh, there it is.
Yeah, you can only you have to wait for you. You get the tokens that you use to get queued for it from just random PvP and stuff.
Land. Oh wait, sorry.
Go ahead.
Land of the Dead is, again, I think I've talked about this before, but Land of the Dead is one of those areas that I think is just amazing. I love this. I understand that the content here is not yet fully fleshed out. There's a lot of potential work to be done. There's a lot of parts to be inserted, reinserted, which I can say, like I said, having a member of the team living under my own roof, I can say that those things are being worked on, right? So, but it's going to take time. And again, this is the aspect of Land of the Dead is another worthy project, right? Because I love this place. When in the live version, coming to the Land of the Dead and roaming about was one of the most fun aspects of the game, and I think people there, again, there's a percentage of the player base right now that kind of dismisses Land of the Dead because the only content that you have currently available to you is just forming a war band and running around trying to, and they tend to be one-sided one way or the other. Give it time. It'll all balance out. Thanos will address the Land of the Dead in time, and it will be perfectly balanced as all things should be, right?
Sure. So, we really want the Mad Titan deciding things.
Well, that's an inside joke. If my son is listening, he'll get that one. But anyway.
So
I had to cut my stream off. I was lagging so hard.
I got you. Well, here's a question for you guys that are big, heavy into the PvP. I mean, what are you guys enjoying? How are you guys enjoying the PvP as it is? You know, do you want to see some changes? You know, what's your thoughts on some of the things that the devs have done to try to address some of the issues? And keep in mind, I get it. There's a lot of people still aren't happy. They are like, no, I want changes. I know one endless topic, and I'm gonna let you discuss this for a limited amount of time, Karis, is the whole Chopper versus Slayer thing. Here's my take on it. Both those classes pretty much complement one another, and as far as the Rampage goes versus Get to the Chopper, it is easy enough to interrupt those abilities to where it's not, you do not have to nerf the class into the ground. So the whole endless fighting over, oh, Slayers are OP, delete them, get rid of them, is not valid any more than the same comment being said about the Choppas. Yeah,
Okay, my opinion is that. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were done. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's classes that need to be that have been overtuned. I get it, and it just now as far as now, what's your thoughts on what classes and what are you seeing that you think needs to be corrected for? The whole point is to throw some ideas out there on how to go about it. So what would your view or what would your idea suggestion be on how to address some of those changes, Raytech? I mean, it's a valid, you made a valid statement. I'm trying to want to go a little bit more in depth to it. Well, that's I mean, that goes to the whole mass numbers thing. Yeah, if you got mass numbers, there's no way you're going to survive, as you say, 20 Choppas or even 20 Slayers. But that's not a fault of the ability. I mean, that's just the numbers. That's one aspect of the game I wish people didn't rely on so heavily, was just mass zerging. But I don't see any real way to deal with that. That's more of a play style than an issue with the skill or a mechanic of that particular class. I'm not sure there is a way that they could successfully address it. I'm not saying you're not right. I don't know that there's a solid way to come up with a fix. Karis, care to weigh into it?
Yeah, my opinion on the whole Rampage, as I call it, Get to the Chopper thing, is that there were some complaints made about Rampage and the damage, how it functioned, the damage that it did, and in response, as I recall, one of the responses that came of that was to increase the range of Get to the Chopper to 110 feet. And of course, Get to the Chopper is an interrupt, right? It's an interrupt as well as just a way to pull targets in. And so that was the balance, that was the offset. As opposed to nerfing Rampage, as opposed to reducing the damage or the effectiveness of the attack, they just gave the opposition a way to mitigate it. And in this context, the term mitigate means exactly that. They gave, destruction through the ability of Get to the Chopper a way to 100% mitigate what's going on with Rampage, at least for, that whatever X amount of seconds window in game that any ability might have on someone else, just like a knockdown or whatever, but they gave Destruction a way to mitigate Rampage. They offset. Neither one of them, in my opinion, exactly because of that reason, neither one needs to be nerfed. Neither one needs to be addressed. I'm trying to be polite. Just, it's a dead issue. I'll put it that way. To me, the whole Rampage get to the chopper thing, it's a dead issue. Both of them are annoying as players, but what do you want, man? In a game like this, if there's no challenge, what's the point, right? So I just see the whole Rampage. I see the whole Rampage get to the chopper thing as just a dead issue. It's been addressed. Go forth, and So there. That's my. Oh, and Ray Tech says I fully agree. Thank you. Thank you very much.
The only thing that I'll say, I don't even.
Hold on a second, Fluffy. I get what you're saying, Demon, but that's a select handful that have that viewpoint. That's all they're centered in on.
Well, it happens to everybody, I think. Every now and then.
I say this mainly because normally there's like a tank that has the buddy system on a Slayer or a Chopper, for that matter.
Yeah.
So they can, help mitigate that damage a little bit. And I'm just like, I shouldn't have to have a buddy system. I shouldn't have to feel like I have to be babysat just to be able to play a class that I love. It stinks. Like, it really does.
What are you referring to, the survivability factor of a Slayer?
Or the Choppa, yeah, for that matter, yes.
The counter to that is the way the classes are set up. If you look at every class in this game, and really to maximize their damage output and their full utility, they're designed to work in tandem with one another. They're not designed to be standalone characters.
Yeah, I have to agree.
They never will be standalone characters. They are intentionally designed to be dependent on one another to function. The Slayer and the Choppa probably, to my knowledge, have it the roughest because they are dependent on two things: a tank for the guard, for survivability, and a healer.
Yep.
And even then, that's not a guarantee.
What I was about to say, I think there are some classes, but let me rephrase that. I know there are some classes in the game that are more conducive to solo operations. As a general rule, but as a general rule, Slayers and Choppas are not. Not that you can't do it, but you're right. Slayers and Choppers are primarily one of those classes that, begs for group play and to fully maximize, the potential of the class. There are other classes that can much more easily go out and, and be fruitful on a solo basis, but I don't know how Tosh does it, man. Just real quick, I tried to play a Slayer, because I used to watch his stream and think, okay, he looks like he's having a lot of fun, So I tried to play Slayer. I was bored to tears, man. I got to level 15. And I said, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to play a Slayer because you have to be willing to put in some long, grueling hours with that because trying to play solo is rough.
Yeah, but so anyway, Tosh and I have had our moments where we disagree on points, but I've always respected the fact that he took that class and made something of it on primarily a solo basis, right?
Yeah, no, that's his
Because
thing.
I was just bored to tears, I swear. But anyway, um, there is a balance issue that, if this is a good time, there's a small balance question I wanted to bring up.
Go ahead. Floor is open to ideas and suggestions. It's part of what, you know,
Okay.
what this is about.
All right. Here's the underlying basis for my thought process. Back in the day, in the before time, in the long, long ago, when you run into an SC that had like a flag carrying mechanic or carrying the bomb in something like that, when you picked it up, it didn't slow you down. You just picked it up and ran with it, like in Talabek Dam, whatever the case may be, that had a carry mechanic in it. Eventually, they changed that, and when you pick up the item and run with it anymore, it does slow you down. It slows you way down. And when the one time that was talked about, the change was talked about on the forums, the powers that be, those who made the decision, made the argument. They said, well, it's only logical. It makes sense. It only makes sense in context of the game that if you picked up, a bomb or a big, huge flag and ran with it, you wouldn't be able to move as fast. Okay. And I have to agree. In context of, the little world that we're running around in here, right? In context of the Warhammer world, it makes perfect sense that if you picked up a bomb and we're going to run it up to the top of the dam, you wouldn't be able to move as fast. Okay. So let's apply that same logic then to the issue of disarms. Ooh, double kill. Oh my goodness. Too bad you guys couldn't see that. But anyway. To the issue of disarms. And the way I phrased this before is, you got the new initiates, the high elves, they get the sword master school, and the drill instructor stands up there and he says, here at sword master school, you maggots, we're going to teach you everything you need to know about how to wield a great sword. And if you ladies leave my island, you will know everything to know about how to use a great sword, except how to disarm your opponent. We're going to leave that to the squig herders with their rickety little bow. I mean, if you get next to one of those guys, they'll be able to take that rickety little piece of wood and knock your greatsword right out of your hands. Same thing for the Magus and the swords with their pieces of wood. It's going to be horrible. And then somebody says, well, gee, Sarge, why don't you just teach us? We're sword masters. Why don't you teach us how to disarm? Nope. Sorry.
Yeah, that one I've never understood. You're gonna give a tanking, or let me rephrase that. You're not going to give a tanking class the ability to disarm their opponent.
But you're gonna give it to a fracking squig herder, with his little.
That one I've just never gotten. I'm sure way back in the mist of antiquity, there was a valid reason for it at one point.
I've never really gotten. Yeah, I would too. I've never really gotten what I would call anything near a definitive answer. The one time somebody did address the issue on my stream, the answer boiled down to, because. Okay. Because why? It was one of those kind of conversations, right? So if there's someone out here who does have a logical argument to support that, I would like to hear it too, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I've just always been curious about it. I could understand those other classes having disarms too, but I'm like, seriously, you're not going to give a tank a functioning disarm when their sole purpose is to be a frontline fighter, to knock aside the enemy by definition?
Right.
I'm like, you're going to rob them of one of their most pivotal key abilities. Or in this case, not even rob them, you just don't give it to them to begin with.
Yeah. I also think that when it comes to the issue of healing spec archmages, that you could address the, well, I was going to say problem, but I don't know if that's the right word to use. It's, I have an Archmage. I have a rank 40 Archmage. It's right around rank 60. And, yeah, this is going to end badly here. But anyway, playing a healing spec Archmage is kind of clunky. I've always found it to be. It doesn't flow very smoothly, right? And so a lot of people play DPS Archmages. And I have made that change too. I've changed to DPS spec because it's more fun. It's a lot more fun to play a DPS Archmage. And the other thing I found is when you show up to any sort of event with an Archmage, people will say, "We want a healer," and you say, "Okay, I've got my Archmage," and they say, "No, we want a healer." And so you might as well play a DPS and just. But I think one change that could be made with healing spec Archmages is make it tactic based. The Archmage would have to burn a tactic slot to do it, but it would allow them to use group heal on the move. Now, if you made that change, you would see a lot more healing spec Archmages out there. And given this is a test server, you know, why not? Why not try it? You know, give Archmages the ability to use group heal on the move, and that would greatly incentivize more people playing them. Okay, if anybody has comments on that.
I get what you're saying there, Anonymous. Everybody plays different classes and different specs according to what, you know, what they enjoy. And apparently Order is falling victim to the fact that they won't talk to one another, so they're getting steamrolled. Big surprise. I'm dead.
Well, I was trying to stream this, but I had such lag issues that I took my stream down. But I'm in Land of the Dead I'm in an Alliance warband, and we've had 2 fights with Destro. We won the first one, and then we got overwhelmed in the second one. So at the moment, we're kind of even up.
Okay, Demon. Quick, hold that thought 1 second. Cares, Demon. How are they OP? Instead of just saying they're too OP, how are they OP? I'm not attacking what you're saying. I'm asking a question because I want to hear what what's your thoughts on why you think that way. No worries. I'm in Land of the Dead, so I get it. Trust me, I get it. But go ahead, Karis, with what you were saying.
Oh, I was just making a general comment about so far in the warband I'm in. So far, we're even. We're like 1-1 on these big group fights. So this Land of the Dead, the scores are going up. Rather slowly. This could take a while, but that's all right.
Yeah, it's usually what happens. I'm not even in a group. I can't get anyone to answer. The one bunch that did answer, like, "Oh, you're streaming. Never mind." I'm like, okay. I still find that comical that people want to blame streamers for everything. I'm like, yeah, there's a ton of add-ons that shout it out when someone sees you.
Okay, that had not crossed my mind, but since you brought it up, I agree. I have faced that issue as well. It's like we're looking for people to be in our warband. Oh, you're streaming? Oh, no, sorry, you can't. And my response to that is, this game has been around for so long. There's a limited. There is a finite number of strategies that people can employ, things that they can do. It's not like, it's not like anything hasn't been done before. Again, to me, that's another one of those, lighten up issues, right? Just lighten up, and stream the content and promote the game.
Yeah, that goes back to the negative aspect of things where people are more determined that no, that's how it is. So you're in effect killing the game on that end of it. I don't know, Little. That would be an interesting thought process. Give shamans that ability.
I don't think shamans need anything else at this point.
I agree. Well said, man. Well said, Fluffy.
As literally, they can. I'm gonna go off the rail here. Excuse me. I have been targeted by so many shamans, it's not even funny. And all they have to do is just tickle you, and you're dead.
Well, I've had more than my fair share of getting killed by shamans.
Like, even in tier 1 stuff, like, they're great healers. They know what they're doing, or at least the ones that I come across know what they're doing. It's
yeah, you're laughing. You're laughing a lot. That's what I'm doing about this Land of the Dead. This is a joke because Order is just. It's Destro is blobbed, and they've got at least 3 solid war bands, and they're just chewing up anything because Order's wanting to try and go at it with one individual war band from different. They don't want to work together, so. This is where one strategy is beating out the other, and Order refuses to adapt.
Yeah. But genuinely, like, to put... Again, what I said in the first place, shamans don't need anything else. Genuinely.
Yeah, I agree.
They're great. They're great as they are. Trust me.
Right. Right. And I see, my point about giving Archmages the ability to use group heal on the move, again, a tactic slot based, right, at the very least. But I think that would also, now this is just how I see it, people are free to disagree. I think that would introduce a little parity between the two classes as well. And, Shammies have always had that, what's the word? The racial trait, if that's, I'm not quite sure what word to use, about the speed boost, right? The speed boost that Gobos get. And I can't remember the exact term that's applied to that right now, but anyway. They have that. And I see no reason. I mean, there's no reason to take any of that away because there are multiple ways to slow a chamois down.
I haven't found it yet.
What class are you playing?
Well, that's my problem. Is that I currently main a Slayer at the moment.
I'm answering somebody in my stream chat. It can lag there, is making. It's most of the time when you'll get lag though is like in keep battles and fortress sieges. So usually after every campaign, once you take a keep or whatnot, generally if you just log out for a second and then log back in, it drops the lag. There's no 100% way to fix the lag because the game is like 13 years old and the graphics engine it's built on is older than most people's cars. So there is times when it will lag. I mean, given the fact that you've got probably, let me see, how many people's on the server right now? Let's see. There's 891 people on the server right now, and you figure 90% of them are in this fight right now. So, yeah. But yeah, you'll get some lag. There's no way of getting around it.
Well, even when this game was new, I remember that there were some heated discussions on the Age of Reckoning forums about how the game would lag, even when it was brand new. There was something. Of course, I'm not a computer coder geek, so I don't know what it would be. But I remember people talking about it, that there was something in the way the engine was written, coded, or the engine that format they decided to use, or something that has always been corrupt. It was corrupt at its core when they initiated it, and it hasn't ever gotten any better, I guess, is the best way to put it. But somebody else, I'm sure, could articulate that more effectively than me. But
That's also true. Sorry, I'm answering somebody in chat as well. But I get what you're saying on that, Karis. And Demon's also pointing out a good point too.
Oh crap! Yeah, Destro definitely has their act together better than we do here.
Well, they're in here. They're in here with their top. They're in here with set war bands and order. And just won't even respond to one another. They're all trying to fight individually. And what's driving that mindset is, kills, kills, kills. I wish, for all that's holy, that they would do away with the kill board. Delete that bloody thing altogether. People get more worried about, I gotta be top kills.
That's another thing that I seem to run into with the difference in factions is that, as you pretty much already stated, Toth, it's just a crapshoot whether a Order is going to listen or not, and then most of the time you find destruction just right there. It spoke for me already. But yeah, most of the time it's literally just one of those things where, like, I joke about this, genuinely, but it's like that one, it's the last scene in the Charlie Brown Christmas special where they're fixing the tree and all you just see is hands. You're the tree, but you're dead.
I got you. There's things that... There's stuff you can cosmetically outfit yourself to. It doesn't have the... If you're thinking of the same transmog system that WoW does, no. But it does have you do have the ability to make your gear look like other things. There's an appearance that you can do with your gear sets. So instead of having to go to like a vendor, you can just do it yourself. You just need the item to be able to do it. It's like my rune priest is in full sovereign gear, but if you look at him visually, it looks like he's wearing the Bloodlord gear because I went and transmogged it to that because it has the winged Valkyrie helm. So I wanted something a little bit closer to what's in the actual Warhammer Total War game. This Land of the Dead's already over. Destro's got this one. I mean, look at the score and see it.
Yeah, the point spread has gone up to a 2-to-1 advantage for them. But again, I would say that before any of the players get discouraged or start talking about how bad Land of the Dead is or whatever, you got to give it time. I wish I had done it. A few Land of the Deads ago, not that long ago, like 3 weeks or something, I was in the Land of the Dead, and I recorded the whole thing in order one, and it was a good fight. The scores were close all the way throughout. It was really, exactly the kind of fight that you would want to get into. And I toyed with the idea of, publishing a video about it, but I just never got around to it.
Yeah.
But my only point here is that, order can win here. You can have fun here, but it's like anything else that's been instituted into the game. You got to give it enough time for the powers that be to, fully address it. There's a lot of stuff they're working on.
Yeah.
That, I could talk about some of that, but I can't, just because if I started talking about the stuff that Techno tells me, that would get him in trouble.
Yeah.
And, so I can't really comment other than to say that, things are being worked on. So
I know. Same reason when I've been told things that I'm agreed to an NDA.
yeah.
And I'm bound by that fact. So while I know some things, I just can't say anything. No, I'm not on the dev team, nor is Karis. His son, Techno, is part of the dev team. Now, I've done quest writing for the dev team at their request, but no, I'm not officially part of the dev team. But I have done quest writing for the game.
Yeah, and since we're on that subject real quick, I'll just say that, over the last month, they've been working on this live event. I mean, I would walk by Techno's room or just look in through the door when he's sitting in there after school, and he had, all these spreadsheets out for the armor stuff he was working on, and it looked like, a real grade A effort, right? It was, damn it.
Language.
I went in too far. Oh, sorry. I overextended and paid the price for it, but anyway. So, I'm just telling that quick little story, just to reinforce the point that people are doing things, so.
Oh yeah, they are. That's one of the reasons I told Max. I said anytime him or any of the devs or anyone else wants to be on the show, they're more than welcome. So they have a way to talk to the community more directly. That's the whole idea why I started doing this, was to promote communication. Something that I feel has been left by the wayside. People have just gotten so used to screaming at one another on the forums that they've quit listening. There's no positive outcome to it. It's just somebody tries to put forward an idea and 20 other people jump on that one person like, oh, you just need to be quiet. Which doesn't work.
Now, I haven't been following your Twitch chat because, I'm trying to run in this warband and Land of the Dead, so I haven't really been reading the chat. But did you get any response on the, either the disarm question or the Archmage question? Any of that?
There was some people that commented about that they play the Archmage and they find it boring, but I didn't get not a definitive waylay into the conversation on that one.
Well, again, the way I've always prefer to articulate that is that playing a healing spec Archmage. When you talk about a class like a Swordmaster, okay, Swordmaster has a very distinct flow about it. it's kind of like a natural progression that went into the class, and there's just sort of a balance to it, right? That makes the class fun. Okay, well, Archmage doesn't have any of that. Archmage is just one of those. Okay, maybe push the buttons, wait for the cooldown, push another button, and I think it's a slow. It tends to be a slow class, right? Now I'm not discounting the fact that there are, of course, some people who have been very successful playing a healing spec Archmage. I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just talking about in a general terms. I've always found it to be a very clunky class. It's too slow, and so that was my way to kind of speed it up, right? And I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. As with everything I say.
I got you.
Okay, that last bit was hyperbole, but but you get my point, right?
Yep. I get the point of it. The question that Karis had posted earlier was what people thought of the fact that Swordmasters do not have a disarm. And that's been a topic of discussion for quite a while because of the fact that it's them being a tank class, they should have a disarm. I've never understood that one myself. And the reason I'm sitting still like this, guys, is because honestly, this Land of the Dead is over. And even I know that. Orders not willing to fight together. There's too much solo-minded, and you got people that are totally fixated on all they want to worry about is kills. They're not worried about winning. All they're looking at is personal kills. So they've already lost. They've already lost.
Wow. This all looks horrible. All right. I guess, at the risk of sounding like a, Return of Reckoning fanboy, I don't mean it that way. I admit that this particular Land of the Dead, isn't much fun. But the next time Land of the Dead comes up, I'll come back because that's part of the challenge of the game, right?
Oh yeah.
One of the great. See, one of the, and I have made videos articulating and illustrating this exact point. That one of the beauties of this game, one of the real selling points, one of the real true draws of the game for me has always been that aspect where if you go out and you get into a fight and you lose the initial fight, you get out, make a couple of changes, you go out and do it again. And so the next time you get out there and you win, that makes everything, all the effort and all that stuff, that makes everything worthwhile. And if anybody is interested, if anyone is listening is interested to see that philosophy in practice, right? To see that clearly illustrated, that philosophy in practice. One of the older videos I did was called Mortal Kombat. And you could look it up on my YouTube page, or you could just put in, Warhammer Online Return of Reckoning Mortal Kombat. The first series of fights in that video are all between me and the chosen, the odd one. Most people who have played on the server for any length of time know who the odd one is. He's, pretty one of the well-known players. So the first fight that I get into with the odd one, I lose. I get up, I go back out, I find him again. The second fight I get into, I win. we find each other for the third time. The death match, as it were. I win that one, and then subsequently we just fight. I fight him again a little bit later on, and I win again. But the whole point of it is, when he beat me the first time, when he killed me the first time in that 1v1, I didn't bitch and moan and cry about it and log off. I got up, I changed. Sorry, man. But anyway, I made a couple changes. I got up and found him again and won the second fight, and that's what makes everything worthwhile. I mean, it really does. That's the kind of stuff that makes the game worth playing, right? So, anybody who wishes to see that in practice, you can watch that particular part of the video. And that video, Mortal Kombat, there's a lot of stuff in there like that. A lot of fights in there like that. Okay, so thank you for indulging my bit of shameless self-promotion.
It's fine. It's you sharing a viewpoint on this topic that we were discussing. But I think overall a lot of the changes the devs have made have been overall good. Some, could use a little bit more tweaking, but it boils down to, they had to try something and then, get the feedback from it to be able to know, hey, is this actually a good idea or do we need to scrap it?
Despair is just trust in
So, I mean, to some degree it's trial and error. I think with the last few events they've done, I think they've done really well with it. I think part of the problem is with the player base's end. You've got people that have been playing the game for so long, they've become rigid with their thought process. So anything that upsets what they have come to enjoy, they rail against. And they always will. Because they won't adapt to anything. They would rather see it burn than maybe take a minute, step back, and reevaluate things. So, that's my answer to that, and that's something I've seen a lot with a lot of war bands is. You got people with that mindset. They're gonna stay like that. But all of you brought up good solid topics and good solid thought, answers and ideas of things. I guess my question is based off the events of recent times, including, the Wild Hunt. Overall, what have you thought of the Wild Hunt event so far? And, what would you like to see in other events? Or maybe events that are already in the game that, they just need to be reworked a little for next year. Because the Night of Murder will come back around.
The Night of Murder thing, since you mentioned that again, I thought that was one of the most effective and sort of inspired, I guess that's a good word to use, event that the server has seen in a while. And the aspect of going to the opposite city like that, I mean, it was just great stuff. It really was. So, when Rubius was on Realm Watch yesterday, he said basically the same. He didn't commit to when it would happen or anything. He just kind of hinted that, okay, yeah, we'll do it again at some point. And because it was a really fun event. And they're trying, and what the player base out there can see with this event, especially those who have been around for a while, is. Even at an event like Hunter's Vale, efforts are being made to make it all as attractive to as many players as possible. And I think the true selling point the true selling point of this particular event that we're in at the moment. Yeah, I'm not even streaming. How did these guys find me? I just got jumped by an entire warband of Destro.
Well, if they had you marked, that would be how.
And I snuck out of the area. It was all the way down by the river. I was in a van. Down by the river. And they still found me. Oh well. Now I forgot what I was saying. Oh, the event. Yeah. So, as a whole, I just think the server's on the right track, and I'll stop there.
Fluffy, what are your thoughts on it? Or what would you like to see with some of the events that you've seen?
To be fair, I cannot say for certain. Like,
Well, what are some things you would like to see?
it's a good question.
Because that's part of what this is to put ideas for things that would help the community overall, help the server overall, not just, cater to one particular.
Yeah. I would well, this is probably just going to be an easy
Say
answer,
it.
honestly. It's probably just more, I like what they're doing. I would like to see some more holiday cosmetics, basically, is what I'm saying.
Oh, you did mention that before. Yeah, I'm sorry, man. Fluffy, I'm sorry. I did mean to support that comment when you said that earlier.
So more stuff based off for the holidays, such as if you hold it.
The example I was going to use, if anyone played Star Trek Online, back when that was kind of big, and that was one of the few other MMO games that I played in the day. But Star Trek Online had a habit of that, and they had a Christmas event, they had a Halloween event, they had a Valentine's Day event, they had some event where Q showed up. They had Q as an NPC, setting in on the main star base, for fleet headquarters and all that. And knowing that stuff was coming up, all the time, always gave you something to look forward to, right? And they always tried to make it different. Like the next time that a holiday came around, they didn't have Q just sitting around. They brought back, God, what was her name? In Star Trek: The Next Generation, she was the character that got killed off in the first season, but came back later as a Romulan.
I am honored to meet you.
Tasha Yar, that's it, right? So they had the Romulan version of Tasha Yar show up as part of one of the holiday events. So that kind of, Fluffy's right. I mean, that kind of stuff.
She's still
is always interesting.
She's still in the game, Star Trek Online. They put her on New Romulus.
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Tasha's
cool.
Yar
Is Star Trek
character.
Online?
Yeah,
Star Trek Online still running, I guess?
yeah. It's good lord, yeah.
It's been a while since I've...
Oh yeah, it's got a very loyal fan base. Same way with Star Wars Online, same way with Lotro.
So yeah, just an idea, of, let's say it's around Christmas time, okay? And one of the rewards that you can get is a cosmetic staff for either, let's say, Rune Priest for Order, or Sorcerer for Destruction, right? So, what I would like to see is something festive, but something that still says, I'm with this faction. So, again, let's go with the Rune Priest here. Have the staff instead of like the wings. Have it be like uh, a small holly bush with the red berries on it for the wings, and then the staff head be like a jackalope head or something like that. Just as an example, and then the rest of it of the staff is like made out of pine, and it's very festive. Whereas the other for the sorcerer, it would be like a staff that would be made out of pine, but it would be like really thorny looking, kind of like almost like the head of the staff would be kind of like covered in blood or gore or something like that, and just your typical destruction bits and bobs and whatnot.
Yeah, it's a fair point. It's they could try and do something. I don't know how far they would go with it, or if they or a lot of the changes they're trying to do is entirely dependent on whether they can actually get the coding to work. Because this server is very much spaghetti coded.
Oh yeah, it was just an example. I mean, they don't have to.
No, I get
But
it.
at the same time,
I'm not discounting what you're saying though.
Yeah. Or for shamans, like it could be like an upside down Christmas tree that has a skull on it and fingers and stuff. I know that sounds like very vague and unoriginal, but even
well, on one topic I do want to bring up, because we are coming toward the end of things, and I want to put this out to people because some people commented on the last time I mentioned it. Possibly some races being added, playable races. Heard a lot of talk about wanting vampires. I know a lot of people want. You can get a cosmetic look that turns you into a Skaven. But as far as playable races go, I wouldn't mind seeing some more playable races on both sides. I'm like put in specifically Wood Elves or Bretonnians. You could put them as, or if you don't do that, on the human side of things, just put them in as a subclass of, say, the kebab or something. I don't know. You could think of a few different things, but what are some possible races you guys would like to see added into the game as playable races? I'm kind of curious to hear.
Lizard men.
Oh, God.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You would say lizards. Anyone else care to weigh into it or put forward thought on that particular subject?
Over the year, the only thing I'll say is over the years, a lot of people have talked about Skaven, and I guess enough people have talked about it that it would probably work if Skaven were actually playable.
Well, to give you an idea, there's a multitude of races. Just within the Chaos faction, there's far more than just human chaos. There's far older things. You have dragon ogres, which is just like it sounds. They're half ogre, half dragon. They're one of the oldest races in the Warhammer world. They're also among the most powerful. To my knowledge, I don't think there's any one single character that could face down a dragon ogre in single combat. At least not very easily. They might engage them, but I don't know that they would beat them for raw strength. You've got the vampires, of course, then you've got the subspecies of vampires. All the way to the Strigoi. You've got the different factions of orcs. I wish they would put savage orcs in as a playable to differentiate between the two, because you have the black orcs, you have the regular green skins, and then you have the savage orcs, which in the lore, heavily lived down in the southern Badlands. And then in some places in the Empire, heavily forested areas, they bit reclusive other than when they would go on raids and stuff, but they were... You'd have to read the lore on them. What, for a Bretonnian? You've already got a shield warrior priest. There's a DPS shield and